Good.
Now recording.
Good evening, everyone. You're listening to another episode of the Tall and Short of It podcast. I'm your host, Justin.
And I'm Aaron. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I'm just slurring my words already.
Yeah, and I'm missing our audio cues and everything. I hope that's not a precursor for tonight's episode.
Nah, I think we'll be good. But how have you been, my man?
I've been doing all right. Good to see you. Happy to be back for another episode. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing well. It's been a busy week since we last did the pod. Had my camping over the weekend, which was pretty fun. Had a first and second date, which was cool. It both went well. So yeah, good things. Had an exciting race that I missed and had to rewatch. So yeah, a lot of stuff going on.
I don't know if exciting is the word I would use. I would use heartbreaking. But we can get there. Let's start with, as per usual, your rose, thorn, and seed, Mr. Aaron.
All right. So I would say my rose honestly was the two dates. I wasn't sure what to expect. Things went well, and so definitely that would be there for the past week.
Nice.
Thorn was a little bit of tension between some coworkers again. Some manager and regional manager back and forth, where people don't like to admit they're wrong, but such is life. So it's just weird when I'm there, because then I feel like in the middle of it, even though I'm not involved, because I'm hearing all of it.
Yeah.
So that's my thorn. Seed, I think, is looking forward to the rest of this LCS summer half. There were some shakeups with that as well that we'll get into a little later in the show. But I'm looking forward to how that proceeds for the rest of the season. So,
yeah, just maybe a little teaser. I know we'll get to it later. Just like a 2 to 3 word impression of this weekend's games.
I honestly didn't get to see a ton of them, but okay. I would say weird lineups or weird substitutions. That would be my...
Okay. Interesting. Yeah, I like that. Okay, cool.
So, do you have any thoughts on that, or would you like to hop into your rose, thorn, and seed for the week?
I have 3 words. TSM, TSM, TSM. All I needed was one weekend, and I'm back on the fanboy wagon. I'm just kidding.
I thought the words were T, S, and M.
Well, yeah, if you wanted to be less of a fan, you could say it that way. But no, I think it'll be. We have some interesting games to talk about, some interesting talking points, and yeah, I think that's an interesting seed to plant for moving forward. Because yeah, we definitely have a lot more. We'll have a lot more games to talk about and a lot more implications moving into Worlds. Because remember, that's what this half's all about. Okay, very cool. Now, for the rose, thorn, and seed over here, today is going to pick up some flour. I'll be able to restore my coffers and fill up my jars, so that's always a good day. We like that.
Nice.
I would say the thorn. Sarah's leaving for Disney in a couple of days, so you hate to see her go. My seed, and we can talk about this. A little bit later. I think we may have some more Magic coming soon. We'll talk about some games that I was playing last night. But yeah, I think some good seeds planted there, so lots of good things to look forward to. Now for tonight's episode, Aaron, Where do you want to start? You want to start with some LCS games? You want to start with the F1 race? Where do you want to go?
I feel like we got to just jump right into the F1 race.
Yeah, sure. I'm all about
There
it.
was a lot, and I know you said heartbreaking. I definitely agree, but the race was not boring, and I think that's what I meant by exciting.
Sure.
It kept you on your toes kind of throughout, and there were a lot of good battles kind of throughout the field during the race as well. So I thought that was pretty interesting, but we did have some pretty rough moments. We had a high-speed crash from Lance Stroll, which looked pretty bad. I mean, he was probably going like 170, 180 miles per hour when he crashed.
Yeah.
From what most people, I think, or at least I believe, was a Pirelli tire failure. They have kind of tried to push it back on debris on the track and people getting punctures from that. I don't know how much I believe of that.
Yeah, that's kind of a tough sell.
So I am still here, ladies and gentlemen. My camera is being a little finicky. So there we go.
Nice. Man, with the quick fixes.
Yeah, I got to.
Very cool.
But yeah, we had that. Then lap 46. Max has a blowout left rear tire as well. Same as Lance Stroll. Same spot on the track.
He was leading.
He was leading first place by a wide margin, probably 5-6 seconds. And that one I'm more likely to believe was due to debris because Lance had already blown out at that spot.
Right.
But he was a little further down the main straight, which meant he was going even faster, probably a little closer to 200 miles an hour when he crashed.
Right.
So very, very good that there were no injuries or anything from those accidents, but pretty devastating to see.
Yeah, I would agree. Or at least any no lasting injuries, nothing right away. Both Lance and Max were, once the road was clear and everything, Max and Lance were able to get up out of the car, so it's not like they were knocked around. But I know Max was in the medical wing for a little bit. He was feeling a little shaken up after the thing. So, some bumps and bruises going on, but yeah, overall okay. It is quite terrifying to think just moving at those speeds that the tires are just gonna that's kind of a scary thought, and I know they were considering they should have went one more in the hard direction or whatever it was.
That's what
that's tough.
That's what they had done the last race in Baku. It was one tire level harder on each one, and they went softer, and I personally think that's what the issue was. I don't think that because the teams were not looking to be at points that it was a concern that the tires were going to give out. So I semi-reminiscent of the blowouts we had last year with Lewis and Sergio and Valtteri all on the same day. It seemed as though, I don't know, I think that Pirelli made a mistake on that one personally. So
yeah, seemed like an oversight from their end, and put two drivers, one of which was one of the race leaders, in a pretty tragic position, sent him into the wall.
Yeah, and so with that was with 5 or 6 laps left in the race. So we had the red flag come out for Max's crash. It was only a safety car for Lance's, which that safety car did bunch up the field, allow for some shifting of places, but Max was able to kind of keep his lead and build that time back up until his crash. But red flagged. Restart was interesting. there was a lot of fighting at the front, and then of course Lewis, who we find out afterwards accidentally hit a magic button on the steering wheel that made him lock up his brakes, go flying past Sergio Perez into the runoff area at turn 1. Sergio did not look back and got his first win for Red Bull, or first win in the Red Bull seat. So,
Yep.
Very exciting. It's awesome that he was poised to kind of jump at that opportunity. I think the past couple years with Albon and Gasly, when doors opened, they didn't always go running through them, and he kind of, with Max out of the race, was, I mean, already running in P2 before that point, P1 after that, and just kind of ran away with it, which is good to see that they have a solid second driver.
And I think what was miraculous in my mind is the same race that Max goes out on something kind of out of his control. Lewis goes out on the same race to not, finish in the points. So even where, Lewis was set to, skyrocket ahead of Max in points, and, could he make it up? Neither of them are earning a lot of points this week, which has interesting implications for the Drivers' Championship, and then gives you were talking about Checo, gives the Red Bull team a little bit of an oomph, being that Valtteri finished so far back and Lewis finished out of the points as well. So an interesting day for the Red Bull fans in the competition for drivers.
Definitely.
Or constructors, I should say.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I mean, Valtteri, like, I don't know what's going on with him. I don't know if he's in his own head too much at this point or what, but he does not look like himself after having kind of fallen down, having to actually fight in qualifying for a good qualifying position. I think last year and the past few years, Mercedes has just had a car that was good enough to kind of always put him up towards the front, barring a few here and there, him starting like P3, P4 kind of thing. Yeah. But he, just does not look like himself. He finished P12 out of the points without any real noise to make throughout the race. There didn't seem to be any particular reason for it other than just getting outpaced by the other cars.
Yeah, it is quite uncharacteristic of what we know up until this point about Valtteri. So yeah, it's a quite disappointing weekend for Mercedes. Although we had a great weekend from Ferrari. They were another top performer as well. The McLarens didn't do as good as we may have hoped they might have, with Daniel Ricciardo finishing a little far back. Talk to me kind of about those teams and what your impression was throughout the race.
Yeah, I mean, I think that we had expectations for both of them to be up there competing a little bit more after Monaco. Yep. Ferrari, really, I mean, they did look good. Leclerc was on pole. Had a shot to finish on the podium at the end, got beat out by Pierre Gasly for that third position. But really not a devastating amount of damage to the McLaren team on that fight for the Constructors' Championship. They finished one place behind their counterparts on Ferrari in both races, so losing only 4 points in that battle for kind of third. And overall, that's not the worst thing in the world. Ferrari seems to be excelling a bit more on these street circuits than the McLaren was. But as we go back to some more standard circuits, I think that McLaren may still have the edge a little bit, but I guess we'll kind of see. But
is there now? I'm gonna put the equivalent of my tinfoil hat on here. Now, this is a dumb question.
Go for it.
So there's only so many left-handed tracks on the calendar, right? Like way less than right-handed, which would be like clockwise. So Baku is counterclockwise. The first turn is left,
Yep.
right? So I'm curious, is there an element where drivers would be like notably worse on a track where they have to turn left-handed more than right-handed?
I don't think it gives anyone a particular advantage, I guess. I think that everyone just kind of has. I mean, everyone's driving on the same tracks, so it gives the same opportunity to practice those tracks as anyone else, essentially. So I don't necessarily think that there's any reason that someone would be better at tracks that kind of have more left turns than rights, but I mean, you never know. At the end of the day, there's got to be little things here and there that kind of play a part into those placements. So I wouldn't be surprised if it has a small effect. So
Yeah, and I'm not saying like that's, well, you talk about car, you talk about engine, you talk about driver, and then it's left-handed or right-handed. It's like, it's obviously not that significant. But these are just the things that run through my mind. Like, if you're presented with a drive from a driver that seems uncharacteristic, there's got to be something that went on over the course of the weekend that creates such like a drastic change, and you just have to like wonder what these things are. Does it happen in the week leading up to the race? Like, is it something that we ever would have saw? Was it something on the way like the car's set up? It just seems like there's so many variables. It's hard to quite pin it down.
Definitely. And Valtteri also, I mean, he had an issue with his flight leaving and everything. I don't know if he missed it or if it was delayed or something like that. So
and that's what I mean. Like,
he got in later. Like that later might have had a little jet lag or something that just enough to make him kind of throw him off a little bit. So there are definitely little things that could have added up to him having a tougher weekend, but I don't think those things make the difference between Lewis potentially finishing P1, P2, and him finishing P12. That's kind of, I guess, the way I look at it. I don't think anything with the car they have, with the type of driver he is, should make that much of a difference, where some weeks he's right on Lewis's heels and other weeks he's like 10 spots behind.
Right. Yeah, that type of discrepancy indicates something else going on.
Yeah.
I definitely agree. Like I said, tinfoil hat, man. Not that I would ever argue that was a large contributing factor.
No, I definitely get what you mean, though. And we actually had another team that I didn't mention because we were talking about McLaren and Ferrari. Mm-hmm. AlphaTauri beat out both of them by a position in each spot as well. So we had Pierre Gasly finishing third ahead of Charles Leclerc and Lando Norris in fourth and fifth. We had Yuki Tsunoda in seventh, beating out Carlos Sainz and Danny Ricciardo. So Yuki back in the points. Love to see it.
Definitely.
The kid seems to have a little bit of a better grip on some things, maybe looking a little more comfortable. I think that's kind of where we would like to see him, especially with Pierre getting up and finishing P3. But a very cool podium. Sergio on top, first win for Red Bull. Sebastian Vettel, who in his 5 or 6 races at Baku has never finished below P4, up there in P2.
Oh, wow, okay.
He's finished second twice now, third once, and fourth a couple times, I think. So he is Been very successful at that track. On the podium, also Aston Martin's first ever podium in Formula One, so super exciting there. And then Pierre getting back up on the podium after the last time being his crazy race win last year with some weird weather and accidents and everything.
Yeah, that was all super wacky. But yeah, Pierre with the P3 is quite exciting.
Yeah. So
I don't think they're recording. They're not recording.
oh man, when did they drop out?
Just like a second ago.
Gotcha. So sorry, ladies and gents. We'll have Craig and Geark back in just a moment.
We do.
Craig says recording.
He'd be lighting up green if he was.
Gotcha. Okay.
Get him out of here. And then what happens if we do?
Now recording.
And we're back.
Boom. There we go. So sorry about that short pause there. But yeah, a really good race. The other thing that I did want to mention in regards to Valtteri is, other than Lewis with his mistake at the end of the race on the restart, Valtteri was only ahead of the Haas cars and Nick Latifi in the Williams. I didn't even realize that, but he only had, like, he got beat out by both Alfa Romeos. Like, that's I don't want to keep harping on it, but that's not a great look. And then, yeah, Lewis's magic button that switches all the brakes to the front of the car, essentially, making him lock up. That's the magic.
And, yeah, and that was like, again, this goes to our, like, can these commentators just use, like, real words, right? Where saying magic button, that doesn't fucking tell me a whole lot. Like, I'm not an ape. I'm literally not an ape. Don't tell me that the number one driver, the number one Formula One driver in the world, the reason he crashed out, it was just a magic brake button, and on to you, Jessica. Like, that's just the most uninformative thing, where you have to, like, okay, so I sat through 11 minutes of Mr. Palmer's analysis just so I can get, like, the full thing. It's like, okay. Yeah. So maybe magic button, obviously it's just a little bit of a buzzword, but yeah, so it was just something that could, at like, when you wanted it to, switch the brake bias from the back tires to the front tires to get heat into the brakes, to get heat into the tires so they can get a better release and just start getting grippy, like, right off the front. You know, 2 laps, it's basically like a 2-lap sprint. It's like a 2-lap shootout, right?
Yeah.
So he was just trying to get as much temp into those tires as possible, and he ended up somewhere in that little battle with Checo, hitting the button and whatever.
Yeah, he was trying to. So the clutch paddle on the back of the wheel is very close to that button, and so he didn't even realize that he had accidentally hit it.
Right, that's brutal, man.
Was going in. So a rare mistake from Lewis, but like you said,
they're all cracking up.
That kind of puts us in an interesting spot. Max still has a 4-point lead in the driver's standings because of Lewis not finishing in the points. Also breaks Lewis's 54 race point finish streak, which is insane. Like,
something tells me it's all downhill from here, right?
Oh, it's got to be. He's
got to be.
He's peaked. But we've got some interesting fights going on. We've got Max still 4 points up. Sergio just jumped with that win ahead of Lando by 3 points. We've got close fight. Valtteri down in 6th, a little bit behind Leclerc. And Gasly up in 8th. There's been a lot of little shifting around. And I guess one other person that I didn't mention from the race who raced very, very well was Fernando Alonso, finishing P6. He got a really good jump on the restart. I think he was maybe P9 at the restart with the last two laps and was able to get up to P6. So good on him. Looked really, really solid. So
Yeah, a lot of good drives overall. I think from some maybe unexpected places. I think we've gotten maybe a little bit used to some of the narratives that come out of a race weekend. But yeah, this one was a massive shakeup. To your point, going back to the AlphaTauri drivers, yeah, both Pierre and Yuki just had a great weekend. I just keep being impressed over and over by Yuki, especially in comparison to like the other rookies on the grid, and then also like other recent rookies that have hit the grid. He's like, I really think he's overperforming in a certain aspect. And then Gasly being up there in the points, you love to see it. Great weekend for AlphaTauri.
yeah, definitely, and it puts us in a different spot with the constructors. Instead of Red Bull having a 1-point lead, they now have a 26-point lead after Checo's win.
Love it.
Ferrari and McLaren are literally 2 points apart. So Ferrari with that 4-point swing jumped 2 points up on McLaren after McLaren had been ahead by 2 points after the last race in Monaco. And next up, we'll have the French Grand Prix in, what is that, a week and a half. So next week.
Or not this coming weekend, the following.
Correct. So we'll have we'll be able to have a little race preview next week for the French Grand Prix.
Wait. Wait. Oh, that's right. Canada got canceled. Canada was supposed to be this weekend.
Yep.
But Canada got canceled. Gotcha. Okay, yeah. So June 20th, we had the French Grand Prix. Circuit Paul Ricard. Holy shit. I don't think I'm, familiar with this track. No, not at all. I'm not familiar with this track.
It's going to be fast-paced. Teams on these straights, long straights.
Wow.
But we will...
That's very cool.
Yeah, we'll get into that a bit more next week.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, I guess that kind of leads us... Oh, one other thing. I saw a tweet from an F1... I don't know how they're involved with F1. He's a reporter, I guess. I just clicked on his name on Twitter. But apparently Vettel and Gasly were talking after the race because Vettel was one of the few I think maybe the only driver that stayed in his car through the entire red flag. Most of them kind of hopped out, moved around. He just sat in his car the whole time. And he said that he was able to stay in his car and sitting. He said this to Gasly because he's one of the few drivers that doesn't pee in the car. So, he wasn't just, sitting in his own pee. So he was able to just keep chilling there. And Gasly goes, "You know anyone who pees in the car?" And Vettel goes, "Do you not?" And Gasly goes, "No, that's disgusting." And Vettel goes, "I reckon half the grid does." Which I find hilarious. A little bit gross, but very funny to think of some of these drivers just peeing as they go. I don't think I could do it at those high speeds. I think
yeah, I feel like the adrenaline would just they just cut that out. Maybe in a pit stop or something, you're just but dude, I don't know, man. That sounds tough.
Yeah.
But the thing that's even more confusing is they're Gasly's like, oh no, there's no way that happens, and Vettel's like, duh, that
There's like
happened.
probably like 10 of these guys do.
Right. So it's like that's a very different like culture then, because somebody's got to clean that up. It's not like, you know what I mean.
That's
like,
well, and I don't know if that means that they're just like saying they're peeing, or if they have like if they're wearing like adult diaper. Like I don't know what this involves, but I have no idea.
It's like that's a lot of liquid.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not like it's just like a little, little teacup and whatever. Like sometimes you're fucking it's a waterfall.
They have the drink thing going the entire race. So man, I have no idea, but I thought that was hilarious and had to bring it up because I was just cracking up when I saw that.
I'm baffled. I can't believe that a sport as like whatever, that these dudes are just like pissing in the cockpit.
They don't call it a cockpit for no reason.
I guess, man. That's gross.
You are very grossed out. I find it so weird, but also very funny at the same time.
Dude, I'm just picturing like, you know how they have like different conventions for industries like Firefighter Con and come see all the new, hoses and we have this new material and check out these fire trucks. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Imagine for like Formula One Con where it's like our new and improved driver diapers. Like I can just like picture the things that they would have to sell for that.
We're getting into TMG territory with the gamer razor diapers there.
Exactly, dude. Get your Mercedes driver diaper here today. No more pit stops.
Even when you're at a pit stop.
That's actually amazing.
That's the tagline.
Yeah, that's amazing. But yeah, no, that's gross, bro. That's really gross.
Yeah, pretty strange.
That's gonna be the basis of my analysis from here on out. Does he pee in the car? Bad driver.
Yeah. So I mean, we went from who's got the fastest hair to like who does and doesn't. I mean, hey, Vettel finished P2 and he doesn't pee in the car. And Gasly finished P3 and he seemed shocked that anyone does. So I don't know, like.
Lewis must have peed in his seat.
I wonder if Checo is a seat peer or not. It makes you wonder.
Oh, dude, are you a seat peer? like the bedwetter? Oh, I was a bedwetter when I was younger. Oh, you know me, I was a seat peer. I couldn't get away from pissing in that seat.
That's
so crazy.
It is. It's such a weird thing to think about, but I'm like, hey, like that is. Yeah, I guess someone's doing it. If for Vettel to be like, oh yeah, this is definitely a thing, he's either full on fucking with Pierre or he knows like something. Dead serious and is like, oh yeah, I could name some names.
I imagine he's dead serious, yeah. That's funny. I bet Lance Stroll is one. I bet he's a seat peer.
Wouldn't shock me.
He's like, Dad, come and wipe this up for me. Get that car nice and clean.
He would, with his crash though, I was very surprised that he didn't end up going to medical for that. He just went back to the pit, to the garage in the pit lane. And
tapped everybody on the shoulder and was like, yeah, sorry about that.
And his dad came over and his dad patted him on the back and was like, you good, son? Well,
No, I'm pretty sure he said that's coming out of your paycheck. You didn't hear him?
Probably.
Yeah. He's like, don't you think you get to just fucking crash a car?
Just because you're my son.
Me and you are going to financial right now.
Yeah, that's brutal. Well, and the one other thing that I also almost forgot to mention was Checo having to pull off right at the pit exit after finishing the race and winning. He didn't even get to do his outlap at the end. They were pull over, stop the car. He's like, can I get out? And they're like, no, not yet.
Why? Wait, why did they do that?
Some issue with the car. They weren't sure if it was going to make it to the end. I forget.
Oh wow.
Uh,
Jesus.
hold on.
It's so crazy that these cars like have all these issues.
That's what
like
it was.
you
It was a hydraulics issue. So the different hydraulics control like like how much you can bounce. And so they were like, bro, like you're not gonna be able to bounce your car going around your outlap. Just pull it over now, my man.
Darn. They couldn't do the bunny hops with the front end.
Yeah, apparently though,
That's a shame.
I was reading some articles. Red Bull was watching it. They were like, oh, like his hydraulics are having issues. Like if they had something break with it, then power steering, braking, like a whole mess of different things are just gone on the car. So when like they were concerned that he wasn't going to make it to the end of the race, and so when he finished, they're just like, yeah, pull off to the end of the pit lane. Christian Horner's on the radio. He's like, congrats, Sergio, great race. It's a shame we couldn't get the 1-2, but you really carried it on. And then you just hear like him cut off, and Sergio's like, oh yeah, thanks everyone, and then just stop the car, Sergio, stop the car, stop the car,
That's
stop
funny.
the car. I'm like,
Damn.
Yikes. So yeah, they were apparently close to retiring the car, but made it through and will hopefully have all issues resolved for the French Grand Prix. So
Nice, very good. Damn, that's pretty funny actually.
But these cars, they're so technical, and like when one little thing gets jacked up, whether it's a magic button or your hydraulics, like you are at risk.
Yeah. Well, dude, and like it's just crazy to think that just happened, just like boop, just into the wall.
Yep.
I mean, it really like painted the story for the whole weekend, really.
Oh, definitely. I'm actually really interested to see what Pirelli comes out with for the tires and the tire issues, because it was also a mix. Like Lance had been on the hards from the beginning of the race. Max was on them at the end of the race.
Yeah.
They were supposed to last 40 laps. Max had him on at lap 11 or 12. The race was 51 laps, so they should have lasted all the way through. So, yeah, I'm kind of interested to see if there's any new details that come out as they do their kind of research into what happened.
Yeah, it just makes me nervous, like, as a whole. You know, like, it's one thing if, like a turn one gets congested and, this or that happens, but that was no driver error. You know what I mean? They just they just lose it. That's brutal. And that's scary is what it is.
It is. And the tires, like they are, like the idea of having all these levels of tire hardness is to make sure that you can have a couple of different strategies, but also like not be risking issues like that. Like I think if they had bumped up the tire hardness one level, would have made the difference that they needed. But also a little weird this year. Seems like a lot of the races so far, teams have been going for softs or hards, not as much on the mediums. Periodically here and there, but I feel like the mediums were more commonly seen last year, and I think that might be due to them like kind of mixing up some of the tire hardnesses,
right,
which is a little interesting as well. But
it's hard to know what leads to the decisions, why changes are made, year in, year out. But it was a safety oversight, man.
Yeah.
And I hope this makes them maybe take a little more critical eye to their tire strategies. Because I
don't want to see it again.
Neither do I. Like, that was like, what the fuck? Like, yeah, again, you just think like you're just watching somebody die. It's like, what the fuck?
It's just great seeing them like climb out of the cars after it. Like Max was even like just kicking the tire that blew out. He was like sitting there like
Well, I mean, wouldn't you be fucking
Oh,
pissed,
I would
bro?
be
I'd be
losing it.
livid.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I'd be especially about to get what would have been 11-point swing
Hmm.
in the drivers in your
Yeah, he was
favor.
about
You're
to
only
rake
up
it in, bud.
4. You're up 4 points. You're about to be up 15, which is like with how close it is right now, a
Yeah, you might as well just
little
be
more
dabbing on
comfortable.
Lewis.
Uh, so yeah, tough situation. Really not boring race. I won't say exciting because that has like a positive kind of connotation. But I also just love Baku as a circuit. Like seeing them go through Castle and those like just big ass buildings
Dude,
on
the
the
drone
side.
shots that they had on that turn was insane.
It's so cool. That's why it's one of my favorite tracks. It's just
Yeah.
the
Dude,
views
Yuki got off
seem.
easy though. Turn 8's like a little marshmallow compared to what it used to be.
Yeah.
You know, they don't have that like hard like they don't have to like dip left, they could just kind of just go straight up the thing.
Right.
um
Lets you run a couple cars wide a little bit and
Barely though,
barely,
barely.
but like leaves room for a little battling. So
Yeah. God, I say it to Sarah all the time, drones have been one of my like favorite things for film and TV. It has just created such dynamic angles that they can do, and like following the cars, putting the drones on like those little, the
well,
me little lines. Like they're fucking crazy,
well,
bro. They're
and
so
to
cool.
even talk about other thing like film and stuff like that, like to get hop back on talking about TMG just for a second. When Noel put out his music video for Crow and Lennon's Ghost, I think it was,
Hmm.
from his recent EP. The car out in the middle of the desert, the crazy drone
Oh,
shots
I
that they had
know.
around that,
Yeah.
like those drones are an awesome piece of technology. I saw a thing on Twitter recently that drones can be hooked up now with these like fire, basically a little flamethrower for any drone that can carry more than 5 pounds. You can hook it up with a little flamethrower type thing that is supposed to be for like clearing debris off power lines. Like you can take out like some nasty like beehives and stuff like that in trees,
Oh,
and
dude,
even
that's
like
sweet.
and even backburn to stop forest fires, like because
Right.
if you're burning the other direction it like kind of hits itself and just like dies because it runs
Right.
out of air. So I don't know. Just that being said, I saw that, and we're talking about drones. Drones are just pretty fucking cool.
Dude, they are. They're sweet. Don't be fucking with your neighbors with them, but yeah, they're cool.
Yeah, don't be
Hmm.
spying on people, doing any weird shit.
Well, got a nice rack on them, go
The
whatever you
drone
want.
has a nice rack on him.
No, if the person that you would intend to spy on, I'm just kidding. Yeah, it's so fucked up. I sexually identify as a camera drone with a big rack.
That's what I thought you meant, man. I thought you were talking
Well,
about drones
easily
with
could have been.
big bolt-ons, you know.
Just call me Sophia, bro. Speaking of TMG,
But I
any
guess
heads will get that reference.
any
Continue.
anything else, I guess, before we wrap up our F1 chat for the week.
No, I don't think so. Yeah, I think we hit all the big talking points. There was no Serena Williams to mess up the end of the race, so that was fun.
True.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I guess that kind of leads us into our other main topic that we talk about, the League of Legends scene, primarily LCS. We got rolling this past weekend with another 15 games. And so, Justin, I'll kind of let you take the lead because, like I said, I've seen the standings. I've seen kind of how the games shook out, but really didn't have much of an opportunity to watch even all the Cloud9 games. I watched the third game for them for the week, but the first two I only saw highlights. So
Gotcha. Well, big news. TSM was flexing a little bit how much money they earn with a big old name change. They're getting into the crypto space. They're now going to be TSM FTX.
And what is FTX? I saw that this was happening, but I don't know. Like, is that just a crypto brand or?
Yeah, I think it's like an up and coming crypto firm that's gonna be able to buy and sell, and you can invest here and do that and this. And the idea was that the TSM will be giving them a whole bunch of shine by changing their name to it.
And wasn't that like a $6 million deal or something?
It was a lot. It was a lot of money. It was a lot of money. And that, weirdly enough, was like just the angle that they wanted to talk about. So unsurprisingly, the TSM org leaders are just making all the best decisions. For their outward-facing brand.
Dignitas also did something similar because they're showing up. I didn't really hear much about that, but they're showing up as
Quantum Pay.
Yeah, Dignitas Quantum Pay, which
Yeah, dude, and if you look like around some of these other leagues, like you're seeing sponsors like this, like all over the place, which is kind of crazy. So. If you haven't bought your Bitcoin, do it now.
Quantum Pay looks like that's interesting. It's like a new type of debit card type deal. Mm-hmm. Full service digital banking in your hand, mobile banking deposits, early pay, no fees, global ATM network. Multi-currency wallet, so I guess you could have like crypto in there if you want to have that together. Interesting. But the weirder thing about that, I just looked them up on their website. They haven't launched yet. Like there's a wait list to like join them.
Right.
So they aren't even a company that's actively.
Well, it's all those venture capitalists, man.
Yeah, and they jumped in
about the future.
Jumped in on Dignitas's team name. So hey, I mean, good for them. Hopefully it helps them out, but very kind of weird. I feel like we are going back in time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, TSM Snapdragon,
Cloud9 HyperX. Like it's a bizarre thing. I was getting so used to teams being like team names. And not sponsored stuff. Like I understand like sponsorships on. Yeah, well, F1 doesn't. Kind of does like.
Well, it's like they do it like it's like the title sponsor and then the engine that they're with. So it's like Aston Martin Renault.
Yeah.
That'd be effectively if it was just like Bitcoin Renault.
Yeah, I guess, but I think it's weird. Like, since they're all in the same space,
yeah,
like that to me would be like it being like Team Solo Mid Cloud9 because they were using some sort of like Cloud9 like training like up and coming players type thing to like vet their new players.
Yeah, okay.
Like because all the engine sponsors are in other than Honda are in F1 already. Like everyone else is using Mercedes, Renault, McLaren, or not McLaren, Mercedes, Renault, Ferrari engines. Mm-hmm. I mean, Haas and Alfa Romeo are Ferrari. You've got Williams, McLaren, and Mercedes using Mercedes engines. So, yeah, it's slightly different, but yeah, I guess it's still kind of similar with the fact that they have like a multi-name team. It's not just straight up like McLaren. It's like Team McLaren Mercedes.
Dude, how funny would it be? And this is like a boring dystopia type meme. What if it was just like TSM Mercedes, Cloud9 Red Bull, Dignitas Mercedes, Team Liquid Red Bull, Mercedes 100 Thieves, Red Bull Evil Geniuses, where it was literally just like 5 and 5, and then you go to like the NFL and it's like the Red Bull Eagles, and it's like the Mercedes, like whatever the fuck, and then the whole world just becomes Red Bull versus Mercedes.
Well,
Like in every avenue of competition, like they have their hands in. It's the Red Bull Baron play. It's the Mercedes first draft pick. It's the
yeah.
think about it, bro. Like they are literally
Just
everywhere.
jumping into those spaces. But it's funny because G2 and C9, who are kind of the most winningest Western teams of historically, I guess, are both Red Bull and BMW. I'm pretty sure are both of their are two of their big sponsors.
It's crazy.
So
and it's like you start peeling back the layers, and it's like, do these car companies just run the world? It's like, I think they might.
I think they do. See, that's where you start getting into some like weird thoughts where it's like, oh, do I want a self-driving car? Because these car companies that rule the world probably have ways to control your car while you get real tinfoil hatty on it.
And if I say something they don't like, maybe they'll drive my car into the wall.
Big Brother is watching.
Yeah, there you go. All right, so now that we've
memed a bit.
memed a bit, now let's actually talk about the LCS game. So I think I have a plan. I have a plan for future weeks.
Okay.
That's for behind the scenes. We'll talk. But for this week, there are a couple of key points that I think we can talk about that might illustrate the weekend well for anybody that was watching, didn't watch, wants to watch, hasn't watched, isn't going to watch. The one story about the weekend, new champions.
Yes.
The other story about the weekend is that the new players on these teams are kind of making it and breaking it.
Yep.
Depending on who we're talking about. And we finally have a bit of a spread for where the teams are shaking out, and some surprises for that.
Cool. So I guess where would you like to start? I mean, I was just looking, and we had two teams go 3-0 this week. One that was less surprising than the other. I would say TSM going 3-0. That was not as surprising to me. They have looked good. They had good time practicing, didn't make any lineup shifts. So they came in just like all gears clicking, came out firing, and took 3 wins this week. But the other one was Immortals, who was kind of towards the bottom of the table, who now have jumped up to a tie with Evil Geniuses for 6th. Which is kind of wild. I mean, granted, Immortals, big win over 100 Thieves, win over Golden Guardians, who is 10th place, and then win over CLG, who is 9th. So they weren't like, they got the one win on 100 Thieves, who was above them, but the other two, they were kind of just beating up on the guys below them. So not outrageous, but still kind of good to see. I like seeing them perform that well. It's fun to see these mixing up of everything.
Yeah, I agree. Now, the one thing I wanted to talk about was the kind of Cloud9, coming right off the MSI. It's almost like I don't want to say a slump, but like you don't expect a 1-2 on the weekend.
Yeah, but it's also tough, and so that's one of the things I wanted to definitely get into a little bit with some of the roster changes. Most teams after MSI come back and do not just jump right back into scrimming. They give their players a break. So a lot of the other teams had restarted scrimming sooner than C9 did. So in that sense, little less practice time.
And they get to watch the whole MSI, right?
Yeah, a little less practice time, little less time getting to play those new champions, because when they're at MSI and they're scrimming constantly, they're on the tournament realm with those other players out there.
Yeah.
They're probably playing kind of pickup solo queue, but only with the other professionals there in Iceland. They're not playing Gwen. They're not playing these new champions and getting to test them out as much. So
in the current matchups, they may have been
Right.
playing them in, solo queue environments or PBE environments. Some players I know have been practicing the Viego for months.
yeah.
Depending on the matchup, but yeah.
But
I
you
think
gotta think,
overall
like,
you hit the nail on the head.
The past 2 months, C9 has either been at MSI or probably been kind of giving their guys a vacation.
Right.
Plus, the kind of headline blockbuster switch of having King move up from the academy team into the AD carry role to swap Sven down.
Is this the end of Sven's career?
I don't think so. I mean, I think that I would not be surprised to see later in the season some switching up. I think that most likely Sven would be there if they make it to Worlds, be their sixth man sub kind of person.
Right.
But also you have to think about it. Sven and Mithy is one of C9's coaches at this point. They were the dynamic Western duo bot lane. I would not be surprised if he was really kind of helping King get up to speed and kind of work towards becoming a more longer-term professional, where Sven is kind of further along in his career. So, and maybe getting towards a point of wanting to potentially retire. Not that I think Sven is incapable of playing the LCS level. He's clearly proven himself to. It just depends what just depends what he wants. Maybe.
Like, he's still so good.
But King was also popping off in Academy. I was looking at highlights, and I know it's I know it's Academy. I know that's what you're gonna say. But like, he was not only. It wasn't like he was just like stomping noobs. Like, he was. His positioning, his like playing, and some of the different highlight stuff I watched, like, he just looked clean. It wasn't any like, there were not many weaknesses that I saw in his play style, and I think he's definitely. I still think it's a surprise that they would have swapped Sven down and brought him up, but I don't think that he is a deficit to the team in any sense other than he doesn't have as much time playing with Vulcan, and it'll take him a little time to kind of build some synergy with the rest of the guys. So
I don't feel like the summer half of your year should be spent trying to train a rookie that hasn't had any on-stage experience, especially in a year that you're gonna be on stage, right? Like, Worlds is gonna be in person. They're gonna sell tickets. COVID's not gonna like exist anymore, right?
Yeah.
So why train this rookie ADC to play in a weaker region where you already have Sven, who was. You could make a solid argument that he was a top 2 ADC at MSI. Yeah. Regardless of the team that won, he was playing out of his mind.
He looked really good
within Cloud9. So I don't think this is the time that you want to be trying to. I don't think this is the time that you want to waste an opportunity on these rookie players when you have the world stage to look at. Like, sure, they get. The individual player gets like an interesting narrative, but as a team, you suffer significantly.
The other thing I would think about, though, is will this change be permanent? Maybe Sven was just kind of burned out from the constant play and going all through MSI. And
and he just needs a couple weeks
maybe
and whatever.
He just
then
needs
King's
some
gone.
time, and King is just filling in and is a very viable option as a backup to substitute in. give Sven some time to just kind of rest, relax, not be like just burnt out before Worlds, and maybe like halfway through this the second half of the season, Sven will sub back in and kind of get prepped for Worlds and all. So, I mean, we'll see. The other side of the coin, though, I mean, Liquid subbing in Jenkins for Alfari. You pay I don't know if it was millions. They paid a lot of money to bring Alfari over and have him as their starting top laner. And for them to sub in Jenkins for 2 of the 3 games this week was interesting to me. I am kind of curious what's been going on behind the scenes that kind of pushed them to that point. I mean, yeah, they got beat by TSM in the first game. Alfari didn't look that bad, though. Like, just based on the stat lines, like 2, 3, and 9 on Lee Sin into Nocturne is not really a bad scoreline. So I'm kind of curious more what's going on in the Liquid wing than with Cloud9. I think with Cloud9 I've just learned to trust Jack and the coaching staff because they've pulled this shit before and it's worked out. So now I'm just like, all right, let them do their thing. Like, they know what they're doing. But that was a weird one from Liquid, in my opinion.
I wish we were able to get some sense of like what's going on dynamically within the team, because maybe they're trying some kind of like, you know, maybe they're trying to go the SK Telecom route where they like build this like 10-man roster where they have all sorts of combinations of players, but
you can only take 6 or 7 to Worlds though.
Right. So maybe they're experimenting in a way. Maybe they are trying out like jungle top lane synergies. It's hard to know though, man. Like this is the stuff that they don't talk about, and I'm not gonna sit through a whole 30-minute episode of their fucking, you know, their weekly vlog as a team or whatever to get the lowdown.
Yeah, no, I don't have time to.
I'm just here for the games.
Like, I can't just be jumping in and doing that kind of stuff. So, I don't have time to watch TSM Legends and C9 Brain, whatever, and like all the other. So it's just a lot.
It's a lot, but I just say that to say like I wish they could do just a little bit of a scoop, you know, where, oh, we heard this come from the this camp. Like, you know, they'd always do the driver interviews and like, oh, how are you feeling coming into this weekend, blah, blah, blah. And you have a bunch of like days to talk to them and yada, yada. But yeah, it just feels like we don't get a whole lot of behind the scenes from the players and some of the analysis on the show.
Yeah, and
to even like weigh in on something like that, you know?
Yeah, it just makes you curious. Yeah, so I guess we'll see. There's plenty of time for us to figure out what's going on and see what they decide to do and shake up and everything. So I'm not concerned. Just kind of intrigued at this point to see how that goes. But yeah, I guess there were, you wanted to talk about kind of some of the new champs as well, and so get into that. I'm still kind of learning a little bit of the Gwen and Viego, what their deal is, and like.
Well, those were the two big ones. Those were the two big ones. I forget who played the Viego.
We had a couple. So we had Jose Diodo played the Viego in the jungle for FlyQuest.
Perks played him as well.
Perks did
against Golden Guardians on day one, and he was the one that really like. Honestly, I think Perks was really popping off. I think watching the ultimate like character changes. He was really heads up about it. Like, they were getting the kills on Leona, and he was swapping to Leona, continuing the engage, getting more kills.
Yeah.
So Cloud9 was playing it really heads up. in the game against Golden Guardians. They didn't end up winning, but
Well,
they
were
played it pretty well.
That game was very well within their reach to win
agreed,
that.
yeah.
I was watching the highlights and was pretty disappointed that they fell off the way they did at the end. They just lost some late team fights and kind of lost the game.
Yeah, it was very TSM-esque, where you have an advantage and then just like get rid of it. Revan G on Immortals, is that his name? The mid laner for Immortals?
Revenge. Yeah, he goes by Revenge.
They don't have they don't have the E on here. I was like, that's not his fucking name.
Yeah,
no. They have the E on LCS. That's why I was like, wait, that's like kind of familiar. All right. Anyway, so he played it.
So yeah, we had some different people break it out throughout the week or weekend, I guess. So it'll be.
I just think it's super interesting. It's very similar to Silas, where you gain access to those champions. And that's just a little bit broken, I think, at the highest levels, because you pick one to, like, gain... You're effectively bringing, like, maybe, like, 2.5 extra champions just by the ability to, like, sometimes use their abilities. I'm not going to say you have, like, a 10-man squad against a 5-man squad. And it like, doesn't equal out to that. But the option to... not be a Viego in a fight anymore and be a Leona when it's like optimal, or be a Tristana when it's optimal, like that's just insane. That's just insane. It's
definitely an interesting champion, especially depending what team comps you're playing against.
Right.
And like what you get to, very much like Silas with like what ult can you steal and everything. The other thing, I guess, talking about the Gwen, and I didn't get to see too much of her being played, but she seems to be just, like, ridiculously strong in early game, where she can just, or, like, at level 1, just kind of bully people out of lane, and it makes me curious to see what kind of picks we'll see as counters and stuff as people play more. And counters kind of, like, I feel like the best way to play it is just to be ranged. Like, just, like, play the Gnar where you're ranged and you scale up decently and get tanky, because getting close to her and letting her snip you with their fucking scissors is just...
It's not a place you want to be.
Yeah.
Dude, and she has the dueling potential of like a Jax or a Fiora or a Camille.
I mean, when you would see in one of the games, was it the third Cloud9 game? Yeah, Fudge was playing the Gwen, and he was just being able to stay alive through ridiculously like long team fights where they're just piling in, and he's just like smacking them with his scissors, chopping away like,
on them,
like he's hedge clipping, man. It was wild.
Yeah, he was doing a lot of damage and absorbing a good amount of focus in the fights as well, which doesn't bode well moving forward. Like if she takes so much attention to deal with, I think Riot may have another like Draven on their hands.
She got some nerfing to be done.
Yeah, and you hate to say that after one weekend, he could easily just could have played the matchup well or whatever.
She's been out for a while though.
Right, and we know she's strong. We know that's why
for a reason.
Right, exactly. So yeah, those were two really fun things because I've been waiting for the Viego. I watched Faker play a bunch of games on him, and it's just like he's just so much fun to watch. The invisibility, the shifting of the attacks, it's sick. So I'm happy that the patches move forward a little bit and we gain access to some of those newer champions. But overall, I think we saw a similar level from NA. Nothing that was like, oh, whoa, these guys are just above and beyond.
Yeah, I would agree. From what I saw, everything seemed kind of pretty standard NA. Bottom teams beating top teams losing games they shouldn't, teams not being able to close things out from the mid game. Like it was, but it's also it's just the first week after the restart of the season, so I'm not putting too much weight into this first week, I guess, is what I mean by that. I think next week will be a better picture of where things are at. So
yeah, and I think I'd be inclined to agree with you, although, let me just shoot this back at you. We talked about the left-handed, tracks and, a flight here and a dab there and whatever, but so again, I'll say, like, how much does something like that matter? Where, like, okay, so they took like 2 weeks off. They're still playing an insane amount of solo queue. They've dedicated their past 50 years of their lives to this game. It doesn't change that much. The fundamentals are pretty similar.
The fundamentals, but like if you're not, and I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of these guys, at least on Cloud9, took a break from solo queue as well for a bit and didn't play that much.
Sure.
Like, and some of the players don't play.
You really need to like get back to speed.
No,
man.
it's more just like, I think rebuilding the synergy. It's like when you don't play with someone, even for a week, if you don't play games with someone, your communication is going to be a little slightly wonky. There's going to be some different things, and I think it is similar to that, like similar to what I was talking about with Valtteri, kind of like just a lot of little things adding up to losing one close game and then getting down early and kind of getting steamrolled in the other one for Cloud9.
Right.
Like, they still came back and put on a pretty dominant performance against Liquid. They didn't seem to be at, like, any deficit throughout that entire game against Liquid, who is one of the other top teams. Like, I think it's just one of those things. And also throwing a new player into the lineup as well. Like, there are all those little things that I think built up to just losing a close game against Golden Guardians that they should have won, and I mean, 100 Thieves isn't any team that is just getting rolled over. So
no, not by any means.
Especially when Perks runs it down mid on Renekton. So
yeah, this is very true, and that's another common theme that I think we're gonna start seeing is just like these AD mids. Like it's literally only gonna be a week or two before people just start busting out the Zed and just trying to pop people.
Hey man, I am all for it. Highlight reels on highlight reels.
Dude, I know. But yeah, it was an interesting first weekend. I was happy to see, and this is just like from my perspective, I was happy to see that they were doing the games in the studio again.
Yep.
That was pretty cool.
With casters live too. Casters were there in person, close by, like awesome.
So that means things are on the mend, which is
nature is
good
healing.
Stuff. Yeah, yeah. There you go.
Shout out FlyQuest, because they're all about the nature shit.
Yeah, I love that. I love that new logo that they have.
I do too. So, well, I guess that kind of wraps up LCS talk for this week. We'll be looking forward to catching some more games this coming weekend, but.
And maybe next week we'll have a little more of an organized format to talk about the games.
So thinking about that, I just remembered next week is the week I'm away at the beach.
Nice. Okay, so then I'm going to be just carrying the whole conversation. I'm going to be telling you about NALCS.
Hey, I will still try and do my best to keep up, but that does mean that next week we might be off for the pod. If I can't figure out how to do it from the beach. Because I was thinking about it in that sense. I may not be able to do the thing.
It could just be like an audio only episode or something like that.
Something like that. We could try and figure out something. Yeah. So.
But be prepared. Maybe we're taking a week off.
Yeah, we'll put it on the Twitter. But that's a just thought that popped into my head while I was
that's fine.
going through. But I know our other big topic, Magic the Gathering. We don't have a deck tech this week for y'all, ladies and gentlemen, but Justin got some games in, so we wanted to kind of talk about that a little bit before we wrap things out.
Yeah, it was super fun. So I'll give just a little bit of background. So and I'll shout out their YouTube channel. It's Mental Misplay. So it's gentleman Alan and a gentleman Cyrus. They play like higher powered to like competitive Commander. They have a YouTube channel where they focus on like faster games, the more like the heavier end of the spectrum. They have a really unique style to their videos. And I think it was Alan that kind of like caught my eye, like the way he did the intros and everything. So I was like, oh, these guys are pretty funny. So I kind of joined the Discord, kept up with their videos here and there. And then through joining their Patreon, you get access to the Discord, and we're chatting. And so we were having some patron games last night that they were streaming on their YouTube or on their Twitch channel. And I was fortunate enough to be able to get into 2 games with them in a pod that were competitive EDH games. So I was able to play my Nagila deck like in a pod that the deck was like built to be played in. And it was pretty much everything I ever dreamed of. It was so much fun. The deck like did so much better than honestly I could have expected it to. In the first game, I got the turn 1 mana crypt with a red source of mana, so we get the turn 1 Nagila, fucking pass it.
That's
like,
awesome.
It just feels so good. Like you're right there doing the exact thing that like everybody's there to do. Like it felt so good.
It's like
it felt so good. Like, it wasn't a bad mulligan. I just kept, I kept my second 7. I was just like, dude, this is right where you want to be. So yeah, shout out the Mental Misplay guys. Thank you for having me on the stream. So that was a lot of fun. Earlier that night, we were playing some games with Ian, Jason, and Brett, the normal play group. I believe Ian won the second game and Jason won the first game. We had some fun games.
Nice.
I played the food deck that we talked about on one of the last episodes, so that was really fun. And yeah, it has so much built-in synergy. It was doing really well. So those games were really fun. And looking forward to Modern Horizons, because now I was just like, okay, so I saw the deck like do X good, right? And now I'm just thinking of the cards that are coming in Modern Horizons 2 that just go in that deck so well. Yeah, for the food tokens, I'm just like, oh man. So I got like 4 solid games of Magic in yesterday and last night. So I'm just totally sailing.
That's awesome. That
has
to feel good after a little bit of kind of hiatus of playing and all to get back into it a little bit.
And it, like, comes and goes so much, like, because you have 4 different people in the play group. Jason travels for work, Brett's got this, Ian's on third shift. So, like, getting everybody together in one room can be pretty tough. So
did you guys get, like, together in person for it, or did you do it over?
Oh, we meet at the office, and I have, like, a table that we set up, and we just go to town.
Oh, that's awesome. I wasn't sure that you guys were getting back together with, now the pandemic's a little bit chiller. So.
Well, and they're all, everybody's vaccinated, nobody's sick, we're all, everything's kosher, so it's fun to...
summer, baby.
Fucking vax and ready for sax, dude. Black, bud.
We've been a little memey today. I like it. It's been fun.
Gotta keep the jokes going, man.
No, but that's cool that you got everyone together again. But it's also nice that you probably have some potential play groups through the that Discord server and all.
Making friends. That's exactly what it is, man. Just making friends. I got, I don't want to say like access to, but yeah, like kind of open the door a little bit to another play group that if things don't go so well with Ian and them, I have these guys to play with and look forward to. And it was that, that fast pace, kind of everybody knows what's going on. I will admit, I made some blunders. I made some like not big blunders that like cost me things, but just some moves that like thinking about them afterwards, I'm just like, man.
Was that because of how fast it was playing, or like just you not being as like?
I think it was jitters. Like I wasn't like not. I don't really know the people, so I'm like trying to be as clear cut with the rules, not like take any
just like
shortcuts or anything. Yeah. So there was a couple things. There were a couple things that I didn't do so well, and the one thing that was pretty funny. There was a point like the second game was going pretty long, and I had an avenue of attacks, not to win, but it was. I'll say it like this: I don't know how important of a combat step it was, but what I chose to do was swing at two of the open players to generate more warrior tokens for me to then swing at the player who was ahead the next turn if I got there.
Gotcha.
Even if I swung at the player who was ahead on that turn with the minimal warriors that I had, he would have eaten a lot of them up. I think I would have actually put myself behind doing that. Okay. But I swung at the two open players, and the one gentleman, his name was Steven, he said, "Why wouldn't you swing at the player who's ahead here, or like who's winning the game?" And in the moment I thought about it, I was like, I'm just trying to make as many warriors as I can to crack at him next turn and like get through some of his blockers. And in the moment he was like, all right, and he takes the damage and we move on. But like I was just thinking about it and I was like, oh my god, like was that the wrong play? Like should I have attacked? Blah 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 blah.
I think that's the right play. You're trying to build up your army, hope that the player that's in the lead can't just wipe everyone on the next turn. Hope that some of those other guys that are kind of behind maybe have something they can pull out that'll help you along. And you just gotta, because like when it's not your turn, like if these other guys attack the guy who's ahead and he blocks them, then like that, I mean, he's already blocked. Like he's not untapping till next turn. He's much more open at that point if it gets to you.
Exactly.
And so,
exactly.
So that guy was, I think it sounds like he was more thinking like, oh man, like you could have helped me have a shot at winning. More so than like he's like, oh, like he's the one ahead. Like, it sounds like he was trying to help himself out.
Exactly. And that's the angle that I wanted to talk about, where like there was so much more like just these little just like audio things that people were saying that I was having. I'm not sure I was fully there, like ready to play, and I'll say it like that to say like I may have been operating with the pretense of like, oh, like we're all just like sitting down having a fun game of Magic, and then like the game comes secondary, right? Yeah. Not thinking that some of the things that they might be saying are like game pieces in and of themselves, right? So like I was getting in my head about like, oh, I didn't make the right attack, like fuck. When in reality, no, he was just playing the game and is like, 100%. wait, don't take my life away. Like I'm trying to win this game too. So I had to separate from the like, okay, what was an objectively like poor play or mistake or like unforced error, and what was just like, you got to make a choice, and that's just, and that was his reaction to my choice. Yeah. And fair enough. But the amount that I was like, oh, and that was really cool, and then that moment, I was just like a pig in shit. It was so much fun. Yeah, man, that's awesome that you were like, and that's cool that you were able to get in on those games, and that was your primary focus. Was like, I'm here playing Magic and enjoying it, and like the game, like maybe I'll win, maybe I'll lose, but like
at least I'll like have a good time and get to play some games of Magic, since I enjoy that. So that's cool that you're able to go in with that like thought process, even if these other guys were maybe like, oh, I gotta flex, I gotta show off, I gotta win, I gotta get that dub.
Right. You don't know what their agenda
like
is, or
different
what their plan
dynamics
is.
when you're playing with people you don't know. So
Exactly.
yeah.
But yeah, another point to it, and this was kind of what we started with, was I really just wanted to make like a good first impression, so that I'll be just invited back for more games. You know what I mean? Like I just wanna be able to play the max amount of games that I can. So yeah, just shout out Cyrus, shout out Steven, and I'm pretty sure it was Josh who I was playing with
Nice.
over there on the Mental Misplay Discord server.
Shout out to those guys.
Great games. Yeah, it was really fun. So I say that to say, maybe instead of doing these boring deck techs, we'll be able to talk about some actual games and kind of get into the meat of it.
I'll mix some of those back in here and there. I do
Mix
enjoy
it up,
those because
exactly.
it gives me more of an insight onto some of that stuff as well. So
Well, because then you just learn about just like the cards
Right,
in general,
and
and then you have a better understanding of what the games will look like then. Exactly.
Definitely.
So yeah, man, we're just hitting our listeners with all sorts of topics here. It's good stuff.
Well, I don't have much else to go on today. So do you want to move on to the flavors of the week before we head out of here?
Yeah, sure. You started with the Rose, Thorn, and Seed. Do you mind if I start with the flavor of the week?
Oh, beautiful. Go for it.
So, we already got a lot of the analysis out of the way. I was listening to the J. Cole album a whole lot this week.
Nice.
Going back to it, some standout tracks are kind of coming along. You know, some that I'm playing more than others. So that has been. Yeah, that has been a very welcome addition to the headphones. So I'm enjoying that. I'll talk about this as the food. So with Sarah going to Disney, I think what I'm going to have to do is come up with like a meal plan. I think I may have to do some shopping this weekend and do like, all right, Monday we'll plan for this, Tuesday we'll plan for that, Wednesday we'll plan for this. Because sometimes it's so up in the air, and honestly, like Sarah takes care of like a lot of the meal, food, shopping type stuff. So that'll be an interesting change of pace.
Tacos,
And then
pizza, wings. Boom. Gave you 3.
Well,
no.
yeah, it may end up being that. Yeah, we'll see how healthy I end up eating next week. But yeah, and then for the visual medium, I'm going to recommend a podcast this week. So it is Tuesdays with Stories with Mark Norman and Joe List. They have a free episode every week on YouTube, and obviously they have a like a Patreon episode and a bunch of whole other stuff. I can't vouch for the Patreon. I haven't invested yet, even though I think I will, because I've listened to all of the YouTube podcasts that they have available currently.
Nice.
It is one of the funniest pods. It's hilarious. It's vulgar as all hell, but they're two stand-up comedians, old friends, and they just come together in a great way. And this weekend, I was hanging out with some extended family, and we got to talking about these stand-ups, Mark Norman and Joe List. And I said to my cousin, I was like, oh shit, like, you know who these guys are? And he's like, oh yeah, they're so funny. And I said to him, I was like, are you a Tuesday? Because that's what they call their fans. They call them Tuesdays. And I said, Kyle, are you a Tuesday? And he like looked down with like a big smile on. He's like, yeah, I love that shit. I was like, yeah, it was so funny.
That's awesome. That's cool.
Yeah, Tuesdays with Stories with Mark Norman and Joe List. It's a great pod. So right when you're done listening to ours, go listen to theirs, and then coming back and listen to ours. But yeah, that's my flavor of the week.
Nice. So for my flavor of the week, my music that I was kind of getting into, I did a lot of country music while camping. I didn't talk too much about the camping trip. It was really cool being down there in Shenandoah in Virginia. We did. Yeah. It was not as roughing it camping as I've done in the past. We kind of got there. We took camping chairs, sat in the shallow parts of the river where the water was just hitting the bottom of my butt cheeks, just like flowing through, keeping us cool.
Yeah.
Drinking beer, throwing a frisbee around in the river.
That sounds
chilling.
dope.
But we had a Bluetooth speaker that my buddy Kyle was just jamming some country music that I haven't heard a lot of, some Luke Combs and some other artists that I haven't heard too much of, which was it was fun. It was nice just kind of jamming out, relaxing, listening to country music out in the kind of middle of nowhere. So that is my music. For my food, I had some really good tacos yesterday from a little like mom and pop like Mexican taco shop, which was pretty cool. So they had some good salsa, some nice guac to throw on there. So
Ooh.
I was living it up yesterday. I got carnitas for my meat.
Fuck yeah.
So that was my food, and for my visual medium, it was watching some Sixers basketball. It's playoffs right now. My friends are big Sixers fans, and so I am tagging along for the journey of the playoffs. So that was a lot of fun to kind of watch and see how they're doing, and hopefully see them keep getting some wins. So
and watch Joel Embiid just hit the paint.
Hit the paint
over and over and over.
Get some air thrusts in there. He loves to shake it up with a little bit of that. So lots of fun. But yeah, that is my flavor of the week.
Nice, very cool. Well, I look forward to it. Maybe off pod. I look forward to hearing a little more about the camping trip, because that sounds absolutely delightful.
Yeah, no, I'll have to tell you a bit more about it. It was a really good time. But yeah, I guess that kind of wraps us up for the week. Do you want to take us out of here for the ladies and gentlemen?
I will say to everyone listening, we would just like to say thank you. Stay tuned for next week's episode, or at least the next episode, we'll say. It may not be next week, of the Tall and Short of It podcast. Remember, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. Really helps out a new channel like us. And that has been the Tall and Short of It for this week. Peace out, everyone.
Don't be a seat peer. We'll catch you next time.
Hey.
All right, I have to pee really bad, speaking of that.